Hi, namaste, and welcome to Breakout with me, Ava. Thank you so much for watching. And we are committed on this show to bring to you exceptional game changers, thought transformers, people who have made new rules or probably broken some rules out there. And they are willing to come here and share their expertise and their success with all of us. They have agreed to demystify this whole rules game so that we can break out of what we think is limiting for us and break into something that we think is absolutely necessary for us. And from them, we've learned that there is only one rule to life, and that is that there are no rules to life. We just make them up all on the way because everything is figure outable. Now, my guest today is a very young, exceptional gentleman who has been a breakout kind of person from the very beginning, from a very early age. He teaches sales professionals and organizations how to break sales records. And he's a former professional triathlete and has started several businesses. And what he's done, he's taken that mental strength training that he got as a sports person, as an athlete, and brought that mindset into business to make some massive breakthroughs into different businesses and creating exceptional sales results out there. So specifically, he excelled on the sales side of these businesses. And today, he uses his unique background in sports, entrepreneurship, and sales to help people achieve the best results. He goes by the principle, just do it. A pro triathlete, an entrepreneur, a speaker, a sales coach. Please welcome Kerry Sullivan. Kerry, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ava. Thanks for the great introduction there.
Oh, that's all you. That's all you. I had to cut it short. There's a lot more. So we'll let you do the talking, okay?
All right, sounds
All
like a
right.
plan. Sure.
I read your site. It says how to kick ass in sales, right? So
Correct.
I'd love to speak about that first. And you're basically out there kicking ass in sales big time. And you started selling very early. As you say, you started selling at the age of 8. And why sales? Give us a little bit of a background. Give us a peep into who you were as a person. You were a sports person, and why did you move here? And why sales? So
Yeah.
give us a backstory so we know who Kerry is.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, my first experience in sales was when I was young. I think I was about 6 or 8. I was selling rocks on the side of the road. And they were pretty rocks. They weren't just any rocks. They were pretty. And I went and cleaned them all up in the garden hose and everything like that. And that's my first selling experience. And then from there, I had my first business when I was 12 years old, and I was with a friend, and we were just going around and we're doing yard work for people. So I put an ad in the paper, in my local paper, and people started calling, and it just took off there. And then that was my very first business. And in any business, you gotta drive sales. That's the name of the game. How are you gonna consistently drive sales over time? That's what I ask every entrepreneur and every business person out there. Not many people know how to answer that or have a good system set up for that. So you're always in the process of selling. And then I got sales jobs as well, and that helped me really find some of my skills and everything as well. So that's the business and sales side there. And then I was always into sports as well. It's pretty much the only reason I wanted to go to school to play, because I could play sports. And so I always wanted to be a professional athlete too. So I just stuck at it there. I thought I was originally going to do it in soccer. Ended up being and doing it in triathlon, and I set my mind on doing it when I was 20 years old. I was like, all right, I'm going to become a pro in this. I thought I could do it in 2 years. Took me 8. So that's the name of the game. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, this is the world of business, the world of entrepreneurship is all about sales. It's all about how much can you make it bigger. It is the bottom lines are important, the numbers are important, and you've hit it right on the nail on the head when you say you're going to break sales records. So, when you speak sales, because this is something that a lot of people selling has a very bad rep. People think selling is difficult. People say selling is not a great thing to do. It's not nice. a lot of resistance, and people don't take it nicely. How do you tackle that part? And why the moment you talk sales, there is a huge shift when you start looking at numbers, when you start looking at the way it could increase business. And so
Yeah.
somebody like yourself will be able to give that answer when you say, okay, what about sales in your business?
Yeah. So first off, you got to get your head straight about sales. There's nothing evil about it. Everything is sales, right?
Right.
Look, you're married, you sold that person, right? You convince your friends to come to your party or come hang out with you, you sold that person, right? So that's number one. Number two is it's one of the most noble things out there, because at the end of the day, if your business doesn't have sales, if no business out there had sales, they would fail. It's the lifeblood of the business, right? As Mark Cuban, I heard him say one time, sales cures all, right? So it's a really big part of business. So you just need to get out of that. The other thing is, and instead of looking at as selling someone, you're there to help someone, right? Because if you generally can't help someone, then that really sets you apart, or you shouldn't be selling that person. But when you come at it from that point of view, that you're generally trying to help someone, then you stay in your power, and you're able to be strong, and you're able to feel good about what you're doing. I think, one of my first sales jobs I had, they didn't really care. They taught me in a way that I didn't really feel comfortable. I didn't know any different at the time, and they just taught you to get the sale no matter what. And sometimes there's a fine line of like whether what you were doing was ethical or not. And so I didn't really fall into that trap, actually. And I came into work one day, and there was probably 14 other sales guys, and it was me and two other guys were there. I was like, where's everybody else? And they got rid of everybody else because they were lying so ridiculously bad to get the sale, and it was causing huge problems. And I didn't get caught up in that, luckily. So that was a great lesson to learn as well. So, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with selling, so you need to get over that.
Because I can relate to what you're saying, because I did my first business at the age of 9 or 8, I think, and we were basically like you collected rocks. I picked up. We have a festival called Diwali in India, which is like a New Year. It's an Indian New Year, and people light candles. So I used to pick up the melt candles when they were dried in the morning, and then create new candles and then sell those. So I know exactly what selling means, and I used to sell them like really well. And eventually we would put them up for exhibitions and did all kinds of things. Basically, you need to go out there and be able to connect with people and get them interested in what's going on there and how it helps them. You're also working with organizations, right? And helping them get exponential growth in terms of sales. So you say this is done in two ways. How do you work with entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs? That's outside of organizations and inside of organizations.
Yeah, so really what I do is I go in there, see what's going on, and I go with, you were talking about before in terms of breaking sales records, right? And so that's number one, is I tell them, okay, we're going to go in here and we're going to break sales records. And we're going to kind of like step back and like, whoa, what's going on here? And the thing is it's no different to get a 10% increase as it is to go out there and get an exponential leap, right? Usually when you just say, all right, I want to just get a 10% increase, or a 20% increase or whatever, that's doable to most people. And what happens is a lot of the time people don't even hit those goals because they just automatically think, oh, I just got to do a little bit more than what I've been doing, right? So when you start talking about breaking sales records and really doubling them, 10xing them, whatever you want to do, right? You start thinking in ways that are completely different, and that's what really causes the breakthrough, right? Because if you just keep doing what you've always done, you're just going to get more of what you've always gotten, right? So goes the saying. So when you start doing that, it takes things to a whole other level. The other thing is I relate to it like this to people. Let's say there's a $1 bill on the ground and there's a $100 bill on the ground. Which one are you going to pick up? Right. And people are like, oh, the $100 bill, right? And the thing is in sales, it's the same thing. It really doesn't take that much effort. You're just doing different things. It's just different habits. It's not that it's any harder. It's just a different set of habits. And people are like, well, also, why break sales records? Look, you're going to be doing something anyway. You might as well be freaking breaking them. So that's the name of the game,
Yeah, so as a sales coach, you also, because I understand that you also coach people into sales, because a lot of people hesitate in selling. A lot of people are not really sort of, they don't feel that they have it in them to go out there and sell something. So you're helping them as a coach as well, to get into their own unique person and to see how best can they sell. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is people a lot of the time get their own ego in the way of selling. And a lot of the time they start making it all about them and what their product is, and they talk and they talk and they talk and they just try to hammer the sale.
Right.
And
Right.
to me that's kind of old school. People will try to really strong hand the other person, but it's really just about sitting there and having a conversation with that person, figuring out what's going on and how you can actually help them, and really going at it from that direction. And it's about asking questions and then just sitting back and listening to that person and figuring out exactly what it is you can do to help that person, and just keep asking those questions. People will tell you exactly how they want to be sold, right?
Right.
If you just ask the right questions and you just listen. That's the name of the game.
Okay.
So
Okay. Right. And also, tell me about your background as a professional athlete. You've trained differently mentally as being a triathlete. You said you brought that part of your mental strength training and coaching into the sales and into the business, and you're training
right.
people to do that. Now that is very interesting, because unless and until you're an elite player, you don't get that kind of training. So you're
Yeah.
not bringing that in here. How exactly do you do that?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So one of the things is, as an athlete, and I still study this stuff to this day in terms of just getting that mental edge, because
Right.
so much of it is a mental, and especially in sales, because you get your head kicked in a heck of a lot more than you do in other jobs. You're going to get a lot of no's, you're going to get a lot of rejections, and if you don't have your head in the game, it's going to be an issue. And it's the same thing in sports, especially when you get to the very top. I was a professional triathlete, and only one guy in that race is going to win, right?
Right.
So a lot of the time, even if you have a great race, especially at the pro level, you're gonna not be on that podium, and it can be humbling. So you got to be able to keep your head in the game. So if you look at how the Navy SEALs, which is a special forces group in the U.S., how they train their guys mentally. I love how they train their guys. But you look at the top sports psychologists out there, like Lanny Basham, Tim Gethaway, top coaches out there, John Calipari, John Wooden, all these guys. They all basically come down to the same thing. The number one is they all have systems, right? Right. So systems are key, right? Because there's a lot of coaches out there too who just make you feel good. Right. And then you get done listening to their stuff or reading their stuff or coaching from them, and you don't know what to do because there's no system. You got to have like a step-by-step way for you to do it. And it really just comes down to these three things. It's number one, controlling your thoughts, right? Controlling your emotions and controlling your beliefs. And then number four, it's taking the action, right? So it starts with the thoughts, right? So what you think about, you bring about. And when I was reading this one book by this one sports psychologist. I can't remember his name, but he was talking about how when he's working with a wrestling team and they were going through what was going through the guys' heads. At every point those guys started losing or lost the match, there was a point where they started thinking, oh no, I'm in trouble. This is not going good. I'm going to lose this. And it just started tumbling down from there. So number one is you got to control the thoughts, but it's not just enough to control the thoughts. And that's what like the people that are into The Secret and everybody else, they're like, oh, I'm just going to think about it. I'm just going to imagine it. It's going to come to be. No, it doesn't work like that, right? So then number two is it's your emotions, right? And so you have to control that physiological feeling in your body, right? And so what happens a lot of time in competition or in sales is people start thinking, oh no, I'm freaking out. I'm having a panic attack. And I'll tell you a great story about this. So I was learning from a guy, and his name is Richard Bandler. And he's the guy who founded NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming here. So he was talking about how he was dealing with this guy, and he was a rock star. And this rock star was just like, having these issues that were outside of his performance. And he's just like, just so, I know, what is it that really makes you tick, right? Or actually, I kind of put I sequenced this story the wrong way. So he was dealing with someone earlier in the day, and they were having these panic attacks because they would get up in front of audiences, right? And this person was just like, I don't know what to do. He goes, well, tell me how you know you're having a panic attack. And he's just like, well, oh man, I just see these people and I hear that I'm going to have to talk in front of everybody in my office today. And he's like, my hands get all clammy, my chest gets tight, and I just like get this fluttering in my chest. And then he goes, that's when I know I'm going to have the worst day ever. He's like, okay. And then this guitar guy comes in and he's just like, you know what? He goes, how is it that you go out there and you can, have this unbelievable performance, right? And he goes, you know what? It's the weirdest thing. I hear the roar of the crowd. I know I got to go out there and play, and my hands get all clammy, and my chest gets all tight, and I get this feeling in my chest. And he's like, it was almost like the same description of what was going on,
Right.
but the way they interpreted it was totally different, right? So I can tell you when I'm on the starting line, it's the same deal. It's like I feel that tightness. My hands are all sweaty. My palms are all sweaty. Like a lot of the time, I'll lose bladder control a little bit, and I'm like, I'm ready. Let's go. And other people take that and they interpret that and they're like, I'm scared pissless. So that's what happens there. So it's really about controlling your emotions and giving them the kind of meaning you want. The other thing is if you're not in that state, you can get yourself into that state through controlling your breathing, right? That's probably the best way you can really turn that around really quick.
Right.
So you get your thoughts, you get your emotions, and then it's your beliefs. Now, some people think it's just enough. They think that, if my thoughts, my emotions are there and I'm in that state, that's enough because I've got the belief that I can do it. But it's not enough because that's like fake. Because if you don't have the skills, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So you have to put the practice in, right? And that's the difference. When you go out there and you practice and you practice and you practice for getting in those situations, it's just like another day at the office. You know how to handle it, right? So you have to practice it. And specifically, you want to practice doing the good things. But you also want to prepare for the bad things, right? I think that's another huge mistake that salespeople and just people in general make is they don't prepare for bad things to happen. They're going to happen. The Navy SEALs, they expect bad things to happen. And when they plan out missions, right, and one of the reasons I like these guys is because everything is on the line when they're going out there. People's lives, all kinds of other like agendas, things are on the line. They got to get the job done or there's going to be some big consequences. And they will go in and they will prepare for all kinds of bad things to happen.
Right.
Usually they never happen, but all kinds of other things happen. And because they've prepared for that kind of adversity, they know how to deal with it, right? So it's important to have the skills. And then lastly, it's actually taking the action to get to your goals, right? So isolating what you want and going for it. And it basically comes down to those four things.
Fantastic. I think that let's sort of go over it. It's your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, and the action that you take. And all four of them put together will literally give you the kind of results that you're looking for. Miss one of these and then you're out. I mean, you will probably not get the same kind of results that you're thinking. So it all boils down, I think, to be able to condition yourself or to be able to actually bring yourself into that game and get in the play field with that kind of thought and that kind of emotion, what gets you the kind of results that you want. So that's true. That's very true. Now, tell me, it's also because a lot of people feel inconfident, when it comes to selling. So how does one? You've told us these four things about thought, emotion, belief, and action. It sounds like a system. How many people do you think can gain a sense of self-confidence in themselves and in the way they sell or in the way they go out and do stuff with these four? Or is there something more that they can do to build up that confidence in sales?
No, that's really the name of the game. And practice.
Right.
Get yourself in those hard situations as much as you can and have people practice. If you're consistently one of the things is a lot of people freak out in sales that they're going to have all these really bad things happen. It's like, okay, well, let's write those down. What are those, right? And they're like, oh, they're going to say this or they're going to say that or whatever it is. And if you break it down, there's you're going to really struggle to come up with any more than 10 objections that people could possibly give you. Right? It's usually really rare. And so what you do is you just prepare for those things. You know what to do when they say, I got to think about it, or I got to check with my partner, or I don't have the money, or whatever it may be. They find that top sales professionals, when they're put in these situations, they have the same response for each one of these situations, and they know how to deal with it all the time. So just figure out what those responses are, write them down, write down what the bullet points are that you're going to make or whatever it may be, relate it back to that person, and just when it comes up, it's like water off the duck's back. You know exactly how to handle it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this is equally important in life. It's not just sales, but I think even in real life, if you start living in this manner, if you start sort of dealing with life in this manner, because life is also not so much like everything hunky-dory. It's always all kinds of things happen. So unless and until your mind is ready to deal with the stuff that you don't like and deal with the stuff that you don't enjoy, I think then the chances of failure are much higher. But if you can deal with those, I think the chances of success are much higher.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues in the personal development world out there is that everything's all hunky dory. Like, and I love. Look, I'm all about being positive, and it's vital. You know, it's vital to be positive. And in fact, I'll give you a good example. There's Rick Pitino. Reading his book right now. He's a basketball coach in the U.S. and he's had a lot of success. And he talks about, you know, I had this one team and I said to these guys, you know what? It's the last seconds of this big game. You guys got to go out there and you got to hit the shot. This is what we're going to do. He goes, but don't do what you did last year at this time, because last year at this time we screwed things up and we lost the game. And once he said that, everything just all the players were like really tense and tight, and they went out there and messed it up. He goes, every single one of the comebacks that I've had with teams where they were down 20, 30 points, it started off with me saying, we're going to win the game. This is what we're going to do. So the thoughts are good, but you have to prepare. You have to expect these things. It's going to happen, and it's not a bad thing. It's just a way for you to go out there and compete and take your game to the next level, which is another big concept I get into is the idea of competing, right? You know, so many people, they get adversity and they think, oh, this is horrible. I don't know what to do. No, you got to love that, because look, that gives you the opportunity to compete and be at your absolute best. You know, Pete Carroll, the head coach for the Seattle Seahawks, he really gets his teams to start buying into this whole competing thing, right? And it's the same thing in sales. His guys, they love their opponents. They love any competition they come up against, and they love the hardships, because that gives them the opportunity to go out there and be the best that they can be. It allows them to elevate their game. And that's like basically the mission of what they do is just competing at the best you can be. And that's what I believe as well.
Right, that's true. I think the way we live in society and this whole fear-based things, we compete very poorly. Instead of instead of believing that the competition is helping us to elevate ourselves or improve ourselves, we think competition is bad. So you also go out teaching, saying how to bash your competition. How do you kick ass there? You bashing competition is done how?
Yeah. So it comes down a lot to that mindset and really just drilling things and having the proper systems in place. And really the competition, again, is going out there and competing to be the best of your abilities, right? And if you do that, so this is the other thing too that's really interesting about top performers, right? Is that they don't focus in on winning, which is really counterintuitive. You know, the other thing is that, you know, conventional wisdom is almost always wrong. What most people tell you is completely backwards, right? So in sales, the ABCs of selling, right? Always be closing, right? Or people are like, oh, win. It's all about winning. And the top coaches, the top athletes, they actually don't focus in on that. What they focus in on is the process, right? So it's just in that moment, doing the absolute best you can, and just going through and doing things and sticking to the system that they have in place. And they know, and it's all about just doing the best you can and putting in that best effort. Because guess what? Even when you put in that best effort, there's going to be times where you don't win or you don't get the sale. You can be masterful and just some things will happen, right? Totally. You can't, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? You know, and if you're focused in on just closing, right, or just winning, it's going to be tough to win that, and it's going to really affect your self-confidence. But if you've done the best you can in that system, the step-by-step, you've called that person, right? You followed up with them. You handled all those objections, right? You had a good connection with them. You did a masterful presentation, and they still say no? Well, hey, that's okay. As long as you've gone through and you've done everything the absolute best you can. And when you focus on that, ironically, what happens is you get more success than the person that's just focusing in on winning.
It's like if I say small changes, big outcomes. We apply that to sales because a lot of people are looking for big shifts when it comes to sales. We're looking at such big numbers or such big results that we don't realize that the smallest bit can shift everything when it comes to sales. So how does that marginal part of sales? You know, I think a marginal shift in sales can alter the way you actually make your sales or make your closing. How important it is to be able to understand the lower end of the sale part, the marginal part. A lot of people like to look at the big picture and say, oh, this is what we're going to do, this is how it looks, and this is how the company results are going to be. And it's like big, massive, hunky-dory stuff and say, oh, this is where we're going to go. And they don't get there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think you must tell all of us, and because I have gone through that process once a long time ago. But the marginal shifts are way bigger than the big shifts.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes down to the system, right? And one of the great things about sales is you can look at the numbers. I love the numbers. This is another thing is numbers are great. And I like looking at them because let's take all the BS out of it. Let's take all the emotions out of it. Let's take everything else out of it. Let's look at the numbers. What do those say? Let's let that determine our decisions. And when you look at the numbers, you can see in sales where you're breaking down, right? So maybe you don't have enough leads. Okay, well, let's just start with that. Let's start with just getting enough leads on there. Maybe you're breaking down when it gets to the presentation, right? There's not a high closing ratio or whatever it may be. So you're just going to focus in on that one thing, right? And just really work on that. We know too with humans, you can't really focus in on any more than 3 kind of tasks for something. And that's what top coaches will do in a given game or whatever. They'll be like, okay, we're going to, these 3 things, this is what we got to do. We got to execute on today. And it's going to be A, B, C. It's the same thing in sales, right? You got to break down it to these small little things. And specifically, what is hurting you, right? And it's going to be different for every sales organization and person, right? And so you have to just break it down, see where they're struggling, do the training, fix it, and look at the numbers and see if you're making an improvement. That's it.
Tell us about the fact that we're living in times where people feel entitled. There's a sense of entitlement about everything. We want it a certain way. This is the level we want at. How difficult does it make for salespeople to go out and satisfy a customer or a person who is looking for entitlement? They're not bothered about what's the product. They don't. It's about them. So we're not moving on to the side of the consumer or the customer who believes in entitlement. How does one deal with those people?
Yeah, I love it because they're going to tell you exactly what they want, right? So you just got to use it to your advantage. They're like, I want this, I want that, and then you're this is. I love it when people start talking about all that because I'm like, this is ammo. This is giving me all I need to sell this person. I'm like, tell me exactly what you want, why you think that's important. Tell me why you think you deserve that, and then I'm going to do my best to show them if the product or service is in fact a good fit for them. I'm going to do my best to figure out how we're going to get them all that stuff that they think they deserve. And just use it to their advantage. So that's the way I use it. So I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I mean, I love them talking, so I'm listening and I know exactly what they're looking for. So we can provide what they're looking for. No? So it's easy. That brings me to the Kanye West incident, where he reached out to Mark Zuckerberg and he reached out to Larry Page, Google, and to help him through his debt. You wrote a blog about it. So I enjoyed reading that. Tell us about what do you think about that?
Yeah, so Kanye West, he comes out and he's on Twitter. Well, so here's what he did. First off, a few days before, he's like going to Mark Zuckerberg. He's like, yo, I can't remember the exact words. He's like, yo, give me $1 billion, right? On Twitter. And a few days earlier, he had told everybody that they need to pray for him and help him out because he's $53 million in debt. So, like, okay, so... so many things wrong with this. First off, if you're $53 million in debt, okay, fine. That's one thing. But he's really set himself up in a bad situation from the get-go. Like, investors do not want to hear that you're $53 million in debt, especially when you're in a situation where he has been, where he's probably had some pretty good cash flow in his career, right? And he's pissed it away apparently pretty fast. So, or he's made bad decisions or whatever it may be. In any way, shape, or form, if you want to invest in someone, that's not a good sign. So that's number one is don't do that. But I would tell people not to lie about that, right? Be like, look, here's the deal. Once you actually sit down with the guy, address the hard stuff first. Be like, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm $53 million in debt. But let me tell you why I'm in debt and what I've learned from this. But I just want to be honest with you, and people will have a lot more respect for that. But he's also coming out there, and he's just like, "Yo, give me give me $1 billion." Like, that is the worst pitch I have ever heard. All right, like, it's instantly going to get you kicked out the door if you do something like that.
Right.
There's no hook there. There's no intrigue. It's all about me. Give me $1 billion, right?
Right.
And doing it like that. The other thing is Mark Zuckerberg doesn't even use Twitter. All right, so he doesn't use Twitter. This thing starts blowing up, goes all over social media. So he's just like digging his own grave over and over and over again, left, right, and center. So it's a great example of how not to do things. And Kanye West is a guy too who's like, he got asked one time what books he reads, and he's like laughed. He's like, I don't read books. Like he's all cool because he's like uneducated or doesn't read books and all this stuff. And hey, you gotta be humble. You gotta be and really just humble is not the right word I'm looking for here, but basically basically be humble. You gotta know that you don't know it all, and you gotta keep learning and learning and learning and learning, because that gets you in trouble. We had a guy over the weekend, Conor McGregor, fighter, and he was going out, and this guy was running. He just runs his mouth. I'm the greatest. I'm this. I'm that. I'm going to kick the crap out of you, all this. And this guy got knocked out. Just like he got owned. He was like, got completely tapped out. And that's what happens to these guys. If you look at the true greats, they don't talk, right? They like that. They're just like, I'm going to do it. They might believe that in their head, but they're not going to go out there and set.
Very grounded. I think what Kanye West also did was he went out and said that I'm the best performing artist on earth today. So he should be. It sort of, I think it did piss off a lot of people, and it wasn't the best pitch. It wasn't the best pitch. I read your blog on it, and I said, this is fun, and let's look at it from the perspective of sales or a pitch, or let's see how you go out and say your thing to other people, and especially to an investor. So I found it a bit. Not a bit. It was over the top, I guess. That you go seek Mark Zuckerberg on Twitter. So I think you can read. Kanye West probably has the resource or the connection to get to Mark Zuckerberg anyway. Yeah. And this was probably not the best way to do it, but good for him. So I think So that was the fun part in the end. So Kerry, thank you very much. I think what you say is clearly like it's a mind game. And like I say, business is an extreme sport, and you being a sports person, an athlete, a professional athlete, I think you brought that into business, you brought that into sales, you brought that into the lifeblood of any business, which is amazing. So I would really like to thank you for making time for this, and I look forward to speak to you one more time. Let's look forward to something more to speak about.
That sounds great. And hey, thanks a lot for having me on. It's been a lot of fun, and look forward to talking with you in the future.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
See ya.
See ya.